I'm glad you're joining us for this very special webinar that we're sharing on our YouTube channel, Life Insurance Today. Every now and again, we stop to think about what our next goals are and what will help us get there. But of course, at the end of the year, like today, December the 29th, people are thinking a lot about it. And so I pulled together with two of my top leaders in my organization a call for our agents. This call is going to detail things that they can do to make sure that the next 90 days in 2023, after that, is going to be the best year that they've had in this industry. And now it doesn't matter what industry you're in. These principles are universal principles for success. So dig in and watch. And here's who you're hearing from. You're hearing from Brian Delaney, whose organization does over $20 million a year in insurance, and Mr. Brad Smith, whose organization also does over $20 million a year in insurance premium. Now, those two gentlemen and their organizations contribute to all that the Pritchett Agency does, and this year we'll finish well north of $55 million worth of premium written this year. And 2023 is going to be a banner year because of a call just like this. So if you're wanting to see growth in your insurance business, in your real estate business, in your side hustle, in your main hustle, wherever, I promise you, if you apply the three principles that are going to be outlined in this following call, it will allow you to see success quickly and this year. So enjoy. Now we can really get this party started and talk about these three keys, three principles that will lead to success. And guys, we're talking about it for us in our industry, in the insurance industry, but this is applicable in anything, right? Like in your personal relationships, in your health, in every aspect of your life that you may be wanting to make a difference in as we move into a new year. And I kind of hate that we do this at the end of every year. Like I got to start the year by like game planning and like, because it denotes that I didn't do what I was supposed to do last year, right? Because like if I had started the game plan at the beginning of last year and I was doing it, I would just keep doing that. Like I'd be on the path. But I think we can all raise our hand and say there's something about the game plan that we thought about at the beginning of 2022 that we didn't see to fruition. And let's work to eliminate that feeling at the end of this upcoming year. Let's be on a game plan that we can continue to push forward with, that we continue to strive for, and just continue to have growth and excess and abundance in our lives. And within this industry, that's exactly what is available. So, Brian, Brad, I know I wanted you guys to say a couple things before we kick off. And well, Brad, I guess you can go ahead and say a couple of things here as we kick off, and then Brian, we'll turn it over to you to really get us started as we start digging into this topic of really engaging in the things that are happening right now and engaging in an actual plan that yields success as we move into this next year.
I'm excited to be on the call with you guys. I always love this time of year for a lot of reasons, but this week between Christmas and New Year's, ever since I heard John Maxwell talk about what he uses this time for, reflecting, he spends 5 days not working. He just reflects on the year. He goes through literally every day of his calendar from the prior year. He looks at the goals that he set. And then he visualizes the next year in the future. And so I've been spending this week doing that, just thinking back on this year. And there's been a year of challenges for a lot of people, challenges, obstacles, maybe goals that you set that maybe didn't hit. And I think acknowledging the challenges, acknowledging, what went well and what didn't, and then having a plan and having clarity. I think that's really the purpose of this week, is adding clarity. Being clear on what happened, why it happened, where you want to go, why that's important to you, how you're going to get there, and then what exactly needs to take place, so that next year you're in a better place. Because years fly by. It does not seem like that long ago that I did this a year ago. It just doesn't seem, time flies. And when we're not intentional about the work that we do and the planning around it, we can get discouraged, we can get frustrated. And I think not having that clarity, some of you guys can probably relate on this call, it leads to anxiety, stress, frustration, just not knowing where you're going and how you're going to get there. It does for me. And every year I have to reset. I have to reset probably more than once a year. But I have to reset, and I have to get that clarity in my own mind. And sometimes we rely on other people for it when it's our job. Me having clarity and where I'm going and what I'm going to do, it's my job. I might seek it out. I might ask you for advice, Edward. I might ask you for advice, Brian, but it's my job to get clarity. It's not your job to make things clear to me. And so I think that's one of the things that we have to take ownership of as we enter this new year is just what is it going to take to be really clear on what you want, where you're going, and how you're going to get there.
I love that, Brad. And Brian Delaney, direct to Edward Pritchett and SFG and Quilty somewhere in there, right? And I think that's a lot of the clarity has come as a result of lack of confusion, right? Gratitude and motivation can only get us so far. And at the end of every year, I don't look for clarity on how things could have gone better, right? How I need things to go better. I need circumstances to be better, or that person, if that person could have done more. But it's like, where can I show up better in this as more? I've got to be able to find those gaps where my actions led to something I didn't want rather than what I did want, and break that connection, right? Because how many times, Brad, did we sit at the end of the year and we were both like planning that year? We were like, oh, we're going to get to 110. Now it's 130, of course. We're going to get to 110. And then then we had a breakdown, right? But that was the breakdown we needed right before the breakthrough. And what we noticed was the difference in the next year was not going to be circumstances getting better, contract levels being higher, us getting more TikTok leads, us getting, it wasn't going to be things that were out of our control that were going to make this year better. That this year was only as good as I was. And so if I had a bad year, it's because I was a badass. No, it's because I wasn't good at what I did. It was because there were problems that I didn't solve, but I decided to procrastinate on. I decided to push them aside for temporary comfort and convenience. I wanted the things that my business had stored up for me in the future. I wanted them now. So what do I get when I grab the things that my business has in the future for me? What happens when I have them now? They're temporary. They break easily. They're fragile, right? I buy the plastic version of it, right? And when we get the perspective of how we can show up better, what we start to do is we start to live that purpose that's set. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I get distracted by messages. I'm going to close that out. When we get in that place where we start to choose that purpose and the purpose of challenge and change, right? People are like, what's my purpose? Well, your purpose right now is to solve the problems in front of you and keep those from surprising you again, right? That's your purpose. So when we choose that, when we choose comfort and convenience, over that challenge and change, over solving the problems, it does three things to these problems, right? It makes them harder to overcome. This is the weakest your problems will ever be right now. This is the best time to solve your problems, right? Number two, it makes a problem rather than the purpose, the driver of your life. How many times have I been in a position where I was like, I don't like calls, but then calling dictated my weekend, right? Only, it happened enough times, but I was still able to grow, right? That's why it's a practice. So what we don't want to do is let our unsolved problems be the guide for our life and build our life around those rather than vision and values, right? But when we do put people in this, when we do put people in a position where they avoid those problems, it does something else, right? It causes us to begin to think that we're part of the problem rather than the problem, and the struggles come with it are a necessary and part of our journey we're going to be grateful for later. So if you're thinking right now you're part of the problem has fooled you because you haven't solved it. It has fooled you into thinking that you're part of its journey rather than it's part of your journey. How about that? How about you stop being part of its story and it starts being part of your story, where you increase strength and gained awareness and saw how you could show up better, right? Because if we're in that other situation, right, where we're living our purpose of challenge and change, even though it can be a burden, in the present, that burden, just like when we steal things from the future, we're just stealing challenge and change from the future. The challenge and change only becomes temporary, and you get the results for what it is. See, comfort and convenience are inadequate aims. They're inadequate aims. Like if I aim, how can I have more time on my couch, right? Then I'm going to get more time on my couch at the expense of everything else. And now I become a part of the problems journey, right? But if I say, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm going to change myself, I'm going to grow, I start solving problems before they even happen. Whereas last year they took me by surprise. Now I'm taking them by surprise because I'm in the game. I own every inch on the field. I'm in it. I'm getting energy from it. Even though I may be tired, I know I'm tired because I did my damn best. Right. And just like in Man's Search for Meaning, where Viktor Frankl says, do not ask this life, what's the purpose of it? Ask yourself, know that life is asking you, what's the purpose of you? And what most of us want to do is we want to be impactful. But what's actually happening is distraction has gotten the better of us, and we forgot who we are. We got hit up beside the head at the fact that the mortgage market has changed, and now we think that we're in a industry that's affected by recession. It's not, though. $1 trillion of revenue for the first time ever. More people are buying insurance now than ever before, right? So it hasn't affected the market, but we forgot who we were and where we were. We woke up and we said, man, I must be part of the problem. I need to get myself fixed. Yes, and solve the problems now, right? Where do we start? We start with our I should list, just like any neglected relationship. We may have a neglected relationship with our business, and it's not giving us what we want because we're not giving it what it needs. And what it needs from us is a new perspective with action to follow. It needs from us that same sort of perspective that came, and Edward, you and I talked about this, that came when the combustion engine became the size to fit the car. And the people who used to make horse and carriages, and they were the people who thought, I'm in the horse and carriage business, right? When they went sideways, they were like, cars are never going to take hold. This engine thing, it doesn't have horsepower. They'll never replicate horsepower. How could they ever get horsepower right? Right. And then the engine makers did. But the people who were building horse and carriages, who recognized that they were in the transportation business, those were the people who won. Those were the people who won. Because they knew they were in the business of moving people. And so are we. And so how do we move people? We engage in action. The second thing is we get our focus on two things that are going to serve our business and help us to be recession resistant, help us to be the pathway, help us to be on the path with other people who are getting financially free. We got to focus on APV and new writers, right? What's our personal APV? Are we doing the baseline in this business and being an example for our team? And if your team isn't running what it needs to run, like 200,000 more on Submit, then, and we're not being an example, we're not giving our business what it wants, so it necessarily does not have the value to deliver back to us, right? And what else do we need to do? We need to have an action plan, because we know people who set goals and who write them down are 70% more likely to achieve those goals. Yet we're here saying that we're business professionals, including me at times in this past year, and I didn't even have written down goals. My business didn't think I was a CEO. It thought I was the comedian telling the jokes. it thought I was like the court jester. It's like it laughed at me, right? But that's not the way. We're not the laughing stock of our business. We're the CEO of our business, and we have to start acting like owners because we own it. So what do we need to do? We need to make that action plan, and we need to engage with other people, and we start that now. What's the best place to start? Take that I should list that's top of mind and start knocking that out, because the things that you know you needed to do and didn't, that was the pathway for how you betrayed yourself in this last year, and why you may feel betrayed right now by your business and bank account. But your business and bank account isn't the one betraying you. Your lack of engagement is. Your lack of engagement is. And that's just how it works. That's how it's worked in my business. That's how it's worked. And we all needed to get here to go there. We just couldn't bring the past into the present or the future. And today is the day. Today is like, it's kind of like getting a ride from somebody. It's like, imagine if Brad stopped over my house and said, hey, you want a ride? I'm going someplace awesome, but I don't have a lot of room for your baggage. I don't have a lot of, and I'm like coming up with like 6 suitcases. I've got 3 service animals, 1 for each ailment, right? I've got all this stuff, and I'm like, Brad, can't we go on a trip? He's like, you're going to need a bus. you're going to need a bus, but you have a taxi cab budget. Like this is crazy, right? So we have to leave the past in the past, because the past only serves the past, right? The present only serves the present. And we have to, for me, it was a flip about 2 months ago where I was like, my lack of intention is stealing from my future and other people's opportunity. And I have to get that right. So I have to start reading, I have to start leading, and I have to get to the next level and be willing to be an example that other leaders in my team aren't being right now. So that starts with me, and that starts now. And as a result of that, we're seeing crazy things happen. We're watching people like Monica Jaramillo get engaged and break out as agency owner. Hannah Grace is up next. Rob Curley get the agency director. Soon enough, he's going to be regional agency director. We're watching Amanda Rudloff break off as AO, right? And I'm sorry, but I'm at a 130, and I had a direct agent. I had somebody break out as an agency owner direct. Edward had somebody break out as a direct 120 this year. Like Jordan Hunt and his whole team broke out. Why are we so much hungrier than you? I don't understand. And that's what we want to get right. We want to get on the right side of that, where it's like, okay, you guys are the ones who need it the most. We don't need it. We would love to see the growth go to you, but the growth, we don't get to decide where the growth goes, because I'm not picky, but success is. Success is picky, right? It's super picky. It's way pickier than me, right? And so what I have to know is that if success is picky, right? If success is picky, I have to know what success wants. And what success wants is for me to develop a practice of bringing the best I have for that day to that day. Not the best I have from another day, not the best I have from maybe what I can bring, but the best I have for that day to that day. And that's what I see this team doing in order to compete at the top. But we don't need to compete at the top. We need to dominate at the top. In order for us to do that, we need each other. And that's what this time is for. Just like Jimmy needed this team, and the Spieldiner family still needs this team. It's not about doing this for Jimmy. It's about doing this for you, because Jimmy is not the pathway for other people to freedom. You're the pathway to freedom for other people, because you have this one superpower that Edward used so many times, that Brad has used, that I've used. You've got the superpower of the invitation for them to see what was missing in their life, which is not me. It's not even symmetry. It's just an invitation to introduce them to their best self. And that's how we can all arrive in this next year and just be a badass, right? That's what we all want to do. We want to have those bank accounts at the next level. We want to win financially, because how good does Christmas feel when you win financially? I remember not doing that. And I remember running appointments on Christmas Eve back in 2013. That sucked. That was terrible. But I did that, so I never had to do it again. What does your business want from you, want for you to do, so you never have to do it again? And a lot of times we keep that at an arm's reach, and we suffer as a result, and so do the people around us, right? We have an opportunity right now at the beginning of this year to ask ourselves that question: how do I show up in new and different ways, and then set our circumstances up to push us toward that? But we're going to find the people to do that. We just want you along. We just want you all along for that ride, right? We know the people who got us here won't get us there, which includes me. The people who got my team to 400,000, including me as a leader, will not be the leaders who helped to get the team to 800,000 a week. They will not be. This time next year, 800,000 a week, right? But me as a leader, who I am today, will not get us there. It's going to be the changes I make over this next year. It's going to be the changes we all make over this next year to help that next version of ourselves be relevant to that business and be able to solve the problems that business requires at 800,000 a week, right? And so that's what I can't tell you how excited I am, how appreciative. We had so many people crush that 300,000 and above mark on production. We have so many of that, so many of those people, the top builders within our agency, the people who grew by so much in our agency. We've had so much of that go on, but here, that's what happened. This is what's happening. And that's what I'm excited for this year, Edward and Brad. So let's do it. Let's stop talking. All right, Edward, close us out. Let's.
You want to hit end right now?
No, I don't. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. I need to learn.
I mean, but what you're saying then, I hope people, and I think both Brad and I were just kind of telepathically laughing with each other. Just sometimes you put things in a way that if people don't hear it, they need to go back and just listen to it again. Because what Brian, he let you know on multiple levels why an action plan is necessary. And the other parts that like what it takes to pull that together, who you need to get with to pull your action plan together so that you can do the next things that need to happen. And I just smile every time, man. Like I know we spent an hour and a half yesterday putting together and planning this, but the time and effort you put into making sure that you're letting people know if they're willing to hear it, right? If they're willing to receive it, because some of the things you said, like some people, it may make you be like, oh man, he's talking about me. Yeah, he's talking about you. You can choose not to be that person in 2023. Like it's okay that was the past, because as he said, you can't do nothing about it. That's where it belongs. It's in the past. So what are you gonna do now? Like, are you gonna be mad and upset at Brian Delaney because he called you out and said, go do something now?
Do it. If you need to, if that's what you need to do it. Edward's been mad and upset at me. Brad's been mad and upset. It's worked for them. I've been mad and upset at those guys. It's worked for me. Like, let's do it, right? Because that's the deal, is we're not different than you are. So stop pretending like it. Like, stop. I'm just a person who read some books and has learned how to take a lot of notes and took action and learned how to take more action than other people and got good people around me. Now it's your turn. I beat the game. I'm still playing new levels of it, but I beat that game. Why don't you be another person who beats it? Because I don't need to play it anymore. I need to play the next game, right? And the next game is, what does our company look like as we're being billion-dollar business partners? And I love what you have to say about it. So I said I was going to shut up, and now I promise I will.
And I just love the contrast. I mean, there's very few people that were here in 2013 to see, like, you're talking about 800,000 a week. Edward, you weren't doing, I think, 300,000 in a month in 2013. And now you got somebody in your agency that's talking about doing 800,000 a week. Think of that, guys. That's 10 years. 10 years, 9 to 10 years. Where are you going to be at in 9 or 10 years? Are you committed? Here's the difference between Brian Delaney, I think, and most people that I know, is his commitment to success. The obstacles don't matter when you're committed to the result. When you're committed to the success, you will go through anything. No obstacles too big. You will figure out a way. And I remember it's hard to do when you're stuck in like a survival mindset, which is where I was at when it came into Symmetry. In a survival mindset. There's a lot of people on this call that may not even be aware that they're stuck in a survival mindset. I was watching a video last night. I get on YouTube sometimes and watch videos, and it recommends different things. And I don't know if you guys have seen these some of these videos of these like tribal people. I think they're in South America somewhere, and they create these like houses out of nature. I mean, just everything is natural. They dig in the dirt. They build out of these trees. All their tools are natural. They don't even use metal nails. They're using wooden nails and little things to drill in, and they're unbelievable. And I thought, man, these guys spend months building a home that won't be here in a year or two. And they have to go do it again. And they have to go do it again. And they have to go do it again. That's why they're so good at it, because they spend their entire lives creating shelter. These are people that live in absolute poverty, and you wonder, how have they not advanced? These are people that have lived this way for literally a few thousand years. There's not really much that's advanced in these communities, because all of their time is consumed with rebuilding. See, all of my time prior to Symmetry was consumed with rebuilding. I didn't have the energy, I didn't have the time to do anything outside of survival, because it consumed every part of me. And so we had to redo it again and redo it again and redo it again. How frustrating is that? How frustrating is that? see, the beauty about what we have here, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody that's a new person, so much talent, so much capability, and this person wants to focus on production. I'm like, you don't understand. Brian Delaney came here in 2013, running an appointment on Christmas Eve, and is now setting goals of 800,000 a week. He never would have done that if he was just focused on production. You have the work that you do has to build upon itself. The work I'm doing this month is building upon last month's work. This year, I'm building upon last year's work. Whatever you do, it has to survive. You can't have a plan that you have to continually rebuild and redo the same amount of work, and you have nothing to show for it. So here's what I needed when I came into Symmetry. Edward, I told you this yesterday. To get out of the survival mindset, I had to have a vision of where I wanted to go. I had to know what I wanted to accomplish, who I wanted to become, but I also had to have a plan on how I was going to get there. Some people by nature are more sensory. They're more like, check the boxes, just tell me what to do. I wasn't that person. I'm more of a big thinker in the future. I have a really hard time with a tangible, like weekly schedule. I can dream. I can think of an exciting future, but that did me no good because I found myself continuing to just dream and everyone around me was having success and I wasn't. And so I needed, Edward, I needed you and your analytical, engineering mind to just hone in the vision, hone in the goals. But you also allowed me to own it though. You allowed me to own my vision. You didn't give it to me. You didn't give me my dreams. I came up with them. They were my dreams. And I said, here's what I want to accomplish. And you helped me put a plan on how to get there. And that's a key component going to this new year of, I think you have to have both. Something, Matt and I, when we first started, we asked you, Edward, and this should be a question that every person on this call, if you're new, what's the fastest way to the top? That's what I wanted to know. What's the fastest way? Not what's the most comfortable way, not what's the average time. I could care less what I'm not going to compare myself to average. Average people fail. Average people quit. Doesn't matter what you do. You go to the gym, average people quit 3 weeks after they sign up. I don't want average results. So I'm not going to ask what's average here. I want to know what's the fastest possible way to the top. And I looked at the promotional guidelines and it said 2 months. Back then we started at 60. Now we're starting at 80%. It was 60 to 65. It took 2 months. 65 to 70, 2 months. And so I put a whole timeline together and I said, okay, then I'm going to be at the top on this date, this month, this year. And I knew, and I reverse engineered, Edward, you helped me with this, exactly what I had to do every single month. I knew what I had to accomplish. This is where anxiety and stress and frustration comes in, is because there's no clarity in what you're trying to do. There's no clarity in your direction. There's no clarity on what you're trying to accomplish this week and this month. And when you have this timeline, and I knew at the end of that timeline is about $50,000 a month of income. And I knew that every month that I missed my goal, I'm pushing off $50,000 a month. It's not costing me today's income. It's costing me $50,000 every month that I don't hit my goals. That was my mindset because I had it on a spreadsheet and I literally copied and pasted my timeline and I had to drag it and I had to move it. And every time I did that, I felt the frustration of, man, I'm not getting there fast enough. And so I had this vision. I knew every month. This is why, guys, we didn't miss a promotion ever in 18 months until we got to 105. 110 was the highest at that point. We got every single promotion every 2 months up to 105. We got stuck at 105 for a year. But up until that point, we'd never missed a promotion. It's not because we were great. We had great people on our team. We cast the vision. We had a shared vision. We made sure that our people were a part of our vision and we were a part of their vision. We set goals and timelines for our leaders and made sure that they had a plan on how to hit their goals, because we knew that we had to help them hit their goals and for us to be able to hit ours. So we had this timeline and we watched it. But then, Edward, you told me, go to Google and print out a blank weekly calendar and just take 30 minutes, slow down a minute, just slow down. We got time, guys. It's between Christmas and New Year's. Take 30 minutes and write out your most ideal, most productive, most fulfilling week that you could have? When would you make dials? When would you have appointments on the calendar? When would you have your morning routine? When would you exercise? When would you spend time with the family? All the things that matter to you, all the things that are important, they go into my calendar. And I learned that from you, Edward. I learned to my calendar is my boss. Just because you say, I want to be self-employed, I don't want to have a boss. You can't come here and not have a boss. You have to be your own employer until you can start hiring it out. You have to be your own employer. And you taught me that, Edward. So having this routine, having this schedule, being consistent with it, being emotionally attached to the activity that's in my control. There is something powerful about knowing that you are in control. Not giving it up, not saying I have to rely on this person, rely on these leads, or rely on this system, or whatever the case is. You are in control. And when I could take ownership, it was like freedom. Like, man, I can control my destiny now. I know my weekly schedule. I may not be able to control the results every week, but I do know the law of averages work. And I know that if I can stay consistent and I can keep the vision in front of me and I can look at it every day and I know what I'm doing this week, I know what I'm trying to accomplish this month, I'm going to get there. But the biggest thing that I had to learn, Edward, T.D. Jakes says it best, I think. He says, he has a sermon that he does, New Year, New Mind. He said, it is not the movement of the clock that produces the newness of life. It is the movement of your mind. So you can put an old man in a new house and you still have an old man. You can put him in a new car and it doesn't change him. The only way to change is to change your mind. And that's the reason I was at where I was at, Edward and Brian. And the reason I'm still at where I'm at is because of my mindset. And I had to learn to change and to think differently. I had to recognize, where are my weaknesses? Where do I need to grow? I had to get your feedback. Where do I need to grow? What do I need to focus on? Where am I weak? I knew I had to become a better speaker. I knew I had to become a better communicator. I knew I needed to become more disciplined. I knew I needed to have a plan and be able to stick to it. I knew I needed accountability. As uncomfortable as it was, I needed accountability and structure around me. And so all these things are not comfortable. But at some point, you get to a place where the discomfort of change is less than the discomfort of staying where you're at. And then you're ready to change. And I think this is the best time of the year to reflect back and just to be honest with ourselves and say, these are the areas that I personally need to grow. I've got to become better. And so, Edward, I look to you constantly for this. You have grown so much since I've been here. And you are already like, I mean, I came here to this business, to Symmetry, because of you. So you are already an impressive person, but you've become more impressive over time to me because you just continue to lift the lid. I mean, there are no limits. It seems like every time you accomplish something great, you're just setting new goals and just, you are absolutely the best mentor I've ever had. And I think it's not necessarily the things that you've taught, it's the things that I've caught. It's the things that I watch. And I watch it in your business. I watch it in your personal life. You are an example that I want to work toward. So I just appreciate everything that you've done in my life and in my business. And I'm going to turn the call back over to you.
Well, Brian,
that's when you know you're good, Edward. When your before picture is what we want our after picture to be, right? So,
I don't know if it's very good.
Just like your 2011, 2013. It's like, man, if I could be like that, that'd be awesome. That'd be a big deal.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing to think back to is where the company was at the time, where that's we were able to see great things in small packages, right? Not knowing that small package was just a seed that had been planted in very fertile soil. It was watered by additional great people being added to that, and that's why this company is where we are today. And that's what has set up the abundance that is available to all of us. Brad, when you were mentioning saying to print out the Google Calendar, I think that was right around the time we stopped using the ASAP planners. And some of you may remember the ASAP planners. Some of you have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But I mean, that was back when it was just like a planner, right? Everybody used to remember Franklin Covey planners. My dad had a Franklin Covey planner as long as I can remember back in the day. But it was just to go in there, and in that ASAP planner, you could block out and say, okay, I have to have appointments here, and I have to do my dials here, and I have to do some training here, and I have to, check my pending business here, and here's where my conference calls are. We can still do that though. And now we can do it digitally, right? You can still block out that same time in your Google Calendar. Maybe you can do that with the Apple Calendar. I don't know. I'm not sure how those work. But I know that with what we have today, we can do the same thing. And that's where, if you combine the two things that Brian and Brad just shared, between having an action plan, like knowing, like, here's the plan. These are what we have to do. These are the marks that we have to get along the way to get to where we're saying we want to go. Talking with a mentor who has had success, and I'll say that again, a mentor who has had and is having success, and saying, help me formulate my action plan. And then from the action plan, you have to be the person. Your mentor can suggest a schedule to you, right? But you know as well as I do, if you don't create your schedule, if you don't look at it and say, here's when I'm going to do this, here's when I'm going to do that, I don't actually build it out, you're not going to follow it. Like, that's why people, could you write me a schedule? No, I'm not going to write you a schedule. You're not going to follow my schedule. You're going to follow your schedule. So you need to sit down and write out that schedule. You know the things that you have to do. You know how many hours you have in a day. You know how much time you want to spend with your family, time you want to spend doing X, Y, Z. So now take the time that you have available for your business and put that stuff in there. And what you may find is, man, I haven't been putting enough time into my business like I need to be doing. And all of this, it culminates in the last part of this. And both Brian and Brad have mentioned it already, and that's that clarity piece. You have to know where you're going. And when we're talking about clarity, I'm not talking about vision. I'm not talking about your dreams, okay? That's for you, as Brad was saying. That's for you. You have to bring that to us. We've tried to inspire people to dream bigger, right? We think, okay, we're going to post on Facebook and post on Instagram and, show all these cool videos of trips and this, that, and the other that people can go on. And we're hoping that people are like, oh yeah, I really want to do that. That's my new dream. But what we know after watching this now for over a decade is that dreamers are dreamers. That's your choice. You can choose to be one or not, but you have to choose to be a dreamer. You are the one who has to choose to have a vision for what your future life is going to look like, right? And that's where the energy comes in to actually do the things that you're clear about that need to happen in your business. Because this isn't the dream. $1 million a month or $1 million a year organization, that's not the dream. And I'll say that again. The dream is not to do $50,000 a month. The dream is not to be an elite producer, an agency owner, or a 130. That's not the dream. The dream and the vision is all the stuff, all the emotions, all the positive things that you're going to feel when you're in that state. Like, that's why you want to get there, is because you feel like, man, if I was there, I'd be making $10, $20, $30, $40,000 a month. The bills would be paid, all this debt would be gone. My spouse could do the things that they want to do. My kids would be able to go to the schools we want them to go to. The car would look the way I want it to look. The house would look the way I want it to look. The travel that we get to do will be what we want to do. I won't be worried about when I walk into the store, can I afford something? I won't be worried about, is some utility going to get cut off next month, right? Like, as you're thinking, like, if any of those apply to you, like, how does it make you feel right now? And how do you want it to feel? And what you want it to feel is you want the feeling of peace, security, completion, success, like whatever that is. And that's the driving force. That's the emotion that allows you to do things to get what you're very clear about, what will allow you to achieve that feeling. Like, no action happens without emotion. So you have to have the vision. You have to bring that to us. If you don't have the vision, that burn it, as Napoleon Hill says, like in chapter 2, if you want to think and grow rich, what you have to have is a burning desire. Burning desire, right? Like burning is not usually used in a positive connotation, right? When you think about burning in most other situations, whether it's a forest or somewhere on your body, it's not a good thing. Like that's something you want to get rid of, right? We're talking burning desire. That's how, I mean, it just has to be something that like you will not stop until it happens. And we've all heard this allegory told before. If you're driving, don't do this. But while I'm talking, inhale real deeply and then blow that out. And now just hold your breath. Don't breathe, just hold your breath. And just keep holding it. Just don't breathe. Don't breathe. Keep holding it. Keep holding it as long as you possibly can. I probably can't go as long as some of you probably can hold your breath for like a minute or something. But right, like if you actually had to hold your breath to the point where like you knew you were getting ready to pass out or die, like how much of a burning desire is it for you to breathe? I know it's simplistic, right? But like breathing is a need. It's not one of those shoulds that Brian was talking about earlier. We all have our should list. I should read more. I should work out more. I should, and the list goes on and on. But none of that stuff happens until it becomes that the desire for it to be has to be as strong as that desire is to breathe. Something that has to happen. And that's what you have to bring. Okay? I haven't even gotten on clarity yet. Like that's what you have to have that. You have to find that. You have to discover that. Right? You have to look inward and figure that out for yourself and have that energy available so that when we go and start working on your action plan and working on a schedule, we can very clearly define this is where you need to be to get that dream, vision, burning desire that you have. That's what the clarity is. Like at what point in your business will you be able to do all the things that you ever wanted to do? That's one of the reasons why I keep pushing for my next thing, my next level, is because I haven't reached where my burning desire is saying I want to be. I have to be. And here's the cool thing about it, and Brian, Brad, I know both of you have experienced this before. As you continue to grow and you start being able to look across that next peak and that next peak and you see the next one beyond that, or the plane just keeps flying higher and higher and higher, and you get to 10,000 and 20,000 and 30, you're able to see a lot further. And when you start to be able to see from up there, you're like, man, I didn't even know that was available. I didn't even know that was here. That's why you see people who achieve success maybe in one industry or another. Oftentimes they go on to have success in various other ventures. That's why they don't stop growing, right? Warren Buffett didn't just stop at his first billion. It's like, all right, $1 billion, done, write my check, retire. No, he's like, I see what more I can do. And that's why he's continued to grow year after year after year after year, right? So with these three things together, having a clear picture of this is where I need to be within this specific time frame, right? With this specific emotional desire around why I need to be there. Because if I'm there, when I'm there and it feels like this. And you got to be able to feel that. You got to be able to feel that now before you actually can feel it in the now. I know that's a little weird. Just think about it a little bit, you'll get it. All right? But you got to feel it now to be able to feel it in the now. And when you have that, then you can get with a mentor and make that action plan, get things lined up right, get things set up right, make sure that you know, okay, here are the things that you need to do. And from there, you need to make sure you have that schedule. What needs to happen on a daily basis to the hour, right? Let's be like, don't like, I'll do this on this day and this on this day. No, it's like hourly, what does my day look like when I'm working towards this very clear and defined goal that I have for myself that's powered by this emotional energy from that burning desire that I have. These three parts together, guys, those who actually do this right now, sit down and get this stuff on paper, as Brian was saying. You got to write it down. I'm raised my hand right with you, Brian. There's so many things that I should have written down that I wanted to have done that guess what? They're not done now because I can't find hide nor hair of them being written down anywhere, right? Like I thought about it and then, that's where it stayed. But you got to write it down. You got to put it to paper. And maybe you make a long list of like what you really, how you really want to feel and the goals that you want to have. And then get in there and find the ones that you just resonate on an emotional level with. And that's what I'm taking to my mentor. That's what I'm working out an action plan around. That's when I'm creating my schedule to help me achieve. Because here's the thing, if you achieve those top ones, the ones that really drive you, I promise you all the other ones will just start to just get erased off your board. And so in short, like that's what we want you all to take the time to do. Don't wait till like you have all this afternoon, you have all day tomorrow. Don't wait till January 1st. Don't wait till the 30th of the 31st, right? We have today, tomorrow. We're still at work, guys. Like we're still working right now. If you're wanting to win, like we're still working. So take the time to sit down and put that to paper. Write that out. Shoot it over to a mentor. Let your spouse see it. Let a trusted friend see it, right? Get some accountability built around it.
Mm-hmm.
And those who do this are going to be the ones who, not at the end of 2023, 90 days from now. And Brian, I'll turn it back over to you as we're wrapping things up. 90 days from now, there are going to be a lot of people in a place that they didn't think that they would be in a year. If you just do this. Don't worry about what training you need. Don't worry about what products. Don't worry about what leads. Like that stuff will come. Because when the desire is there, you will find a way to make it happen. That's a sure bet every time. And we have to be clear about what that desire, like what's going to fulfill that desire. We have to have an actionable plan around it. And we have to have a schedule that allows us to execute and engage with that actionable plan. But Brian, I know as we're wrapping up, one thing that we all, when we were talking yesterday, we're like, what's the one thing that if we all put our focus on right now would take our organization to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because I want Brad to talk about this because we're talking about an event, right? And he's got me more fired up about events than anybody else in this whole damn company. At different times, I'm like, rent a bus? Yeah, of course I should rent a bus. Why wouldn't I? So it's been so great to grow with other leaders and like, listen, what business can you be in where you can design the business that you want and the role in that business that you want? Like that's the gift. And it's a lot easier to see that next level from a different level. Like it was harder for Edward to have the same quality of feelings in Marshall, North Carolina than it is in Puerto Rico. Like his quality of feelings have enhanced, right? I remember going to his house at first, and, it's kind of like you look back on that postcard and you see, it reminds you of a different time. And I remember looking back on Edward and seeing him at a different time in his business. He owned that place. It didn't own him. It didn't own him. He was not part of the problem. That problem was part of his journey. And so where's the next stop on that journey in order so that you can get more free? Because what's available to Edward is not available to you. It's better. It's better than that. It's better. It's like better. You just heard him. We started at 60. You started 80. If you place 10,000 in your first month, you get a $2,000 bonus on top of your 80% commission. It gets crazy. Like it's better, it's faster, it's all those things right now, but it's better for you, which means you have the opportunity, not it's the opportunity to do more with it. So as we are all looking ahead, what is that first stop on that train? Well, first stop on that train for new people is you've got to become a new writer. You've got to get SNA and you've got to get your slingshot bonus because that's going to put money in your pocket. On the way to that, I want every single person on this Zoom to be thinking the same thing. How can I get to the spring fling? How can I get there and how many people can I have with me? Because if you're not qualified, if you haven't been invited to that spring fling, right? These seats are earned, right? They're earned. They're not entitled. Like this isn't a thing where you can just pay to go. You'll have to pay to go. It's just you can't do it with money, right? It's going to take leveling up. But by the end of February, how many people can you have with you for that spring fling? And what that means is if you're an AO or above and you haven't qualified recently, all you have to do is qualify 1 month between now and February, the end of February. Between now and the end of February, you just have to, if you have not reached key leader yet, all you have to do is qualify 1 month at key leader. That's all. 20,000 placed, 20,000 placed with 3 direct writers. If you put your target on that and you say, how many people are going with me? If you get people around a mission that's bigger than themselves, they're willing to overlook their own problems in order to do what's necessary for the team. And here's the second thing. Get on a carrier trip. Get on a carrier trip. Stop waiting for us to lower the standards for getting on a carrier trip, because if we lower standards, it's going to lower the outcomes. Right? Get on a carrier trip. I would rather be on a trip with Edward than myself. Like if Edward put on a trip, I'd rather be on that trip than my own trip, because I know what his assets look like. I know what mine look like. I choose his. Now, if I have to choose between Edward and Symmetry's trip, I'm going to be on Symmetry's trip. Like I love Edward. Edward is a great man. He does not have the same assets as Symmetry yet. Right? It's only a temporary problem that he's solving for all of us, right? He gets the lead from the front here. We get to learn over his shoulder. If I could go on a trip with a company that has $1 billion in value over the next 3 years, I want to go on that trip rather than with Edward. But if I can get on a trip with a company that has over 30 billion of assets, I'm going on that for a trip. That's the one I'm going, because they hand you envelopes full of money. They do weird stuff, right? They pay for they pay for everything. Like we've all been on trips together, and the best part is the first one, because then you realize that I am someone who can make my life and at least one other person's my guest. I can do that. I can earn that. And once you get on one and you confuse yourself enough. You confuse yourself enough to believe for moments that you are enough and there is more, then you start to act like that. You start to deny those old limiting beliefs. You stop saying things like, oh, money doesn't really matter to me. And then you wonder where the money is, right? You stop saying things like, oh, well, success isn't a real big deal if I don't have fulfillment. How about both? Stop it. How about both? Those are poor people arguments. We don't have poor people arguments with rich people bank accounts, right? That stuff doesn't line up. So how many people can you get with you to bring to come to Spring Fling? Because the worst thing that ever happened to me was when I was at the same place from meeting to meeting. And this is our opportunity to grow massively meeting to meeting, not only with those people who hit it, but with those people who find it within themselves to try and fall short and have that be a never again moment, because sometimes that's just what needs to freaking happen. The power of not being invited is just as beneficial as the power of being invited. Find out what it's like to be invited to that, and put yourself in the position. If you're just starting today, if you just wrote a new policy, if you're waiting for your writing numbers to write a new policy, we don't know why. We don't know why. You could write yes apps right now. If you're waiting for your first set of leads, we don't know why. There's at least 6 people who need insurance in your warm market. We don't know why, right? If you don't have commissions in your account, we also don't know why, right? Because you can do all of that right now. Talk to your growing mentor about how to do that, and ask them the question is not what is the least that's going to be required, but what is the most I can do to get the most result over the next 60 days? And they will tell you that it is to go to that Spring Fling and at least have one other person by your side, and more if you're not. Other thing, this is what engaged leaders are going to do within the Pritchett Agency this year. Every single AO who's not running 200,000 or more per month is going to lead from the front. That's what engaged leaders are going to do. They're going to at least place 10,000 a month and at least have 5 new writers in their base shop per month. That is as clear as we can make it. Like, that is what engaged winning leaders do when they grow year over year. They have new writers and they're at least placing 10K a month on their own pen. 5 new writers in your base. What you'll find out of those new writers is people will select themselves to be the people who go and they get that bonus, and other people won't, right? We don't control that. We just give people that gift of this opportunity that we uniquely have to give, that we talked about earlier. here's the last thing, is they're not going to be playing games with this. You know, hobby level engagement leads to hobby level results. I don't think any of us want that, right? What you're gonna notice all of the leaders who are engaged, because they're gonna have their cameras on 90% of their time. They're gonna be offering to take on conference calls. They're not going to be waiting for that call from their leader. They're going to be telling their leader what they did and why they would love to serve the team by getting on a call to give back what has been given to them. And that's the last thing. One of these things that one of these days, you're going to realize you've been put into a position and you made the decisions and you put in the work to change your own life, change other people's too. And you're going to realize that came at the cost of your mediocre short-term desires, and what you got paid back were long-term results that nobody can ever take from you, because you became the type of person who can earn that rather than it was just given to you. So I'm so thankful for this opportunity. I'm so thankful for our partnership, Brad. I'm so thankful for our partnership, Edward. And yeah, I'll hand that back over.
Well, I think you've picked up some tips from Brad along the way about promotion, because I'm ready to go out and qualify for Spring Fling now and get on at least 2 carrier trips, if not 3. You got to figure out. I own my personal pen, not.
Let's not get wild.
Hey, you got me kind of crazy. You got me feeling a little crazy. You got me
hey, listen, crazy. Crazy is as crazy does. If you're crazy, let's get crazy. So.
Well, Brad, before we close out, any final thoughts? I mean, I know you're right with we were talking about it yesterday on the Spring Fling thing, but any final thoughts before we close out?
I hate to add to that because it was so good, Brian. It's such a great way to end the call. But I do remember that first carrier trip. I think it's so important, and I do think that needs to be on everybody's list of goals this year, is to hit a carrier trip. What it did for me and my belief in myself, that I deserve to be part of this elite group, that I am the kind of person that can qualify for trips. Man, I needed that. I needed that re-encouragement. I needed that belief in myself, because I was you know, a lot of people can relate to this. When you go through so much failure, it affects your personal, view on who you are and what you're capable of. And going on that first trip with you and the two of you guys to Ireland and the castle, and man, it just opened my eyes to a new life, a new possibility. At that time, here I am in Ireland in a 5-star castle. Edward's paying for a $400 bottle of wine. It's just unbelievable. Just opened my eyes to this new lifestyle, because at the time I am living in an 800 square foot house that hadn't been updated since the 50s. I had a 3-bedroom house with a half bath. It had a little corner shower, no bathtub for my 1-year-old. And we lived that way for 2 years. And then to go from that to going on these carrier trips and starting to realize that this business is not about, earning and creating a living. It's about creating a life. And there's a big difference. And getting to a place where you know that you deserve it as much as anyone else does. Starting to build that belief and that vision for your life and how much better it can be, that you have the tools in front of you. You have everything that you need to completely turn your life around if you make the choice to do it. Just make the decision that you're willing to do it. You're going to do it. The done button has been pressed. Now it's just a matter of time. And I love too that the focus from here right now into the new year is getting as many people to this event in March in Asheville, North Carolina as possible. 1 month. That's all you have to do. 1 month of Key Leader. Every single person on this call can do that. And it is so important that you do that. It's so important to your business and to you. You have to be the kind of person that sets the goals and says, I am willing to do this no matter what. I'm going to do it. Find a running buddy. Get some people there with you. It has to start somewhere. A decision has to be made at some point. To me, there's no better time than right now to make that kind of life-changing decision that things are going to be different now. You're going to be different now. You're going to start thinking different. You're going to start thinking bigger. And it all starts with getting to this event, because big decisions are made at big events. They are. I thought I was in symmetry until I went to my first event and I realized the decision had not yet been made. That's why you have to get there. That's why you have to get people at these sorts of events. So great call, guys. Man, I'm so proud to be in business with you guys, and I just can't wait to see what happens in this 2023 year.
Yeah, most definitely. And appreciate you guys, Brian, Brad. Guys, just go out and do
Hey,
that. Put that focus on that spring fling, as Brian was saying. Talk with your mentors about the other points here. We'll get this posted. We'll probably, just so that everybody can easily access it, we'll probably actually put this up on the YouTube channel so that everybody can easily access it. Brian, Brad will get you guys direct copies of it so you can use as you need to and see fit. And other than that, guys, Happy New Year. Let's make 2023. This is the Jordan year. 23 year. Like, this is the greatness year. You got to be great this year. 23. Like, I mean, what else? What else could you do?
that's right.
All right, guys. Be blessed.